Thank you very much for that. Joining me now to discuss these late-breaking developments is Mark Gann, a criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor in the Nassau's DA's office. Appreciate your time tonight.
No problem.
Okay, so now officially, George Zimmerman has been charged with second-degree murder. There are a lot of charges he could have been charged with. It could have been aggravated battery, aggravated assault. It could have been manslaughter. Are you surprised that it was charged this high?
I am a little surprised by that. I mean, I think there was political pressure to do that. To me, it feels more like a manslaughter type case than a murder case.
Okay. Can you explain the difference a little?
Sure. The murder charge would require some intentional intent to kill, some really depraved indifference to human life, as opposed to a reckless act.
Putting himself in that situation where he knew something bad could happen.
Correct, and recklessly causing the death of another person as opposed to intentionally doing so.
Which would be bringing the gun. I mean, being reckless in all those circumstances.
Correct.
Now, she did not go to the grand jury, the special prosecutor, which was her choice, her decision. She could have put this in front of a grand jury and just let the cards, you know, the chips fall where they may, and let them indict him. The only thing that does against her is it takes first-degree murder off the table under Florida law.
Right.
Does that surprise you that she didn't go to the grand jury route?
Well, look, I think going to the grand jury would have given her an opportunity to present evidence to the grand jury, and they would say whether there's enough here to charge Mr. Zimmerman with murder or something less than that. Okay. This may, however, by not doing so, may give her a little more latitude in the plea bargaining process if that's ultimately something that she's looking to do and if the family is ultimately on board with that kind of thing.
Okay, so you've been a prosecutor before. You're now a criminal defense attorney, so you've worked both sides of this area. What happens now? He's been charged. A capias has been issued to the court, basically an arrest warrant. We're told he's in custody somewhere in Florida. What's the process now?
He will appear before a judge. He will enter a plea of not guilty, or a plea of not guilty will be entered on his behalf. They'll deal with the issue of whether he should remain in custody while this case winds its way through the court system. My suspicion is that he will remain in custody while this case winds its way through the court system, and eventually he'll be entitled to certain pretrial hearings and a trial if he so desires. There will be defenses articulated. His attorneys, whoever they may be at this point, I'm sure will be negotiating with the district attorney or the attorney general in this case in an effort to reach some resolution.
Now, Florida has this, we've been hearing about this, it's a national conversation right now, the stand your ground law. New York does not have that law, but basically, how is that going to come into play in here?
Well, listen, I'm sure they've they've articulated that as a potential defense and as a reason why Mr. Zimmerman wasn't charged initially. This concept of some kind of self-defense, that you have a right to bear this arm and to use this arm in standing your ground, which is an unusual principle, but it's certainly a defense that he has articulated, and I'm assuming he will continue to articulate.
Now, but that seems odd to me that was used as a defense pre-arrest. I mean, he said to the officers, hey, I'm standing my ground, and that seemed to preclude them from taking any steps further instead of giving the evidence to the prosecutor, letting them decide whether that's
well, I think it was very unusual for the police not to arrest in a circumstance where an unarmed man is shot and killed. Even when a police officer shoots and kills someone who is unarmed, there is extreme scrutiny and often charges filed against the police officer who engages in that conduct. For a private citizen not to have been charged, I find highly unusual, and the conduct of the police in serious question when they didn't charge Mr. Zimmerman the night this happened.
And real quickly, we're running out of time, but you've handled a lot of high-profile cases as well. This has certainly gotten a lot of national attention. There's probably nobody in the country that hasn't at least heard about this case somehow. How is that going to affect each side, both the prosecution and defense?
Well, look, I think it's already affected the prosecution and the charge that they brought. Because by bringing a murder charge in, we can relate it to the Casey Anthony type case. You don't want to overcharge, and they may have done that. And
which was the criticism they ran.
That's correct. And so you want to be sure that the charges are sustained. From a defense perspective, at this point, a lot is out there about this guy. I'd want to rein it in and keep my mouth shut if possible.
All right, we'll see what happens. Mark Gann, appreciate your time tonight. All right.
Thanks, Tom.
All right. Stacy?